Welcome back to Investing Talk podcast. Today, we're looking at a really interesting convergence in tech and investing.
Hmm.
We're going to unpack what's been happening with Quantum Corporation, their performance, their strategy, and also look at a pretty major international quantum computing deal linked to President Trump's recent Middle East trip.
That's right. Big implications there.
Our aim here is to pull out the key insights from the latest reports and news, make sense of it for you without drowning in technical stuff. So let's start with Quantum. What's their main business?
Well, Quantum's been around for, over 40 years now in data management. They really zero in on what's called unstructured data.
Okay.
Think video files, sensor data,
Mm.
all the stuff that doesn't just slot neatly into a traditional database. And this kind of data is absolutely vital for AI applications these days.
Makes sense.
Their key products are things like Myriad all-flash software, their unified surveillance platform, and StoreNext, which handles hybrid storage.
Okay, so helping companies grapple with that messy, unstructured data flood, which is becoming super important for AI.
Got it. Now, what about their financials? Sounds like a bit of a mixed picture.
That's a fair assessment. For their fiscal third quarter 2025, revenue was actually up slightly year over year, $72.6 million.
Uh-huh.
But if you look at the trailing 12 months, they posted a net loss of $124.72 billion, and the earnings per share figure is negative $25.77.
Wow, that EPS figure certainly stands out. What about debt? I heard they're carrying quite a bit.
They are. Their debt-to-equity ratio is, well, it's negative 69.8%. Total debt is around $136.1 million.
Negative equity.
Yeah, that means liabilities outweigh assets. It points towards, a potentially strained financial position.
So that paints a picture of some pretty serious financial headwinds, but I also saw some maybe glimmers of hope, particularly around cash flow.
Yes, that's true. They did show improvement in free cash flow in that recent third quarter. A lot of that seems to be down to cost reductions and just running things more efficiently.
And they also managed to report a positive adjusted EBITDA recently. That's kind of a measure of core operating profit before things like interest and taxes muddy the waters.
So steps are being taken, managing costs, trying to improve that underlying profitability. What's the immediate outlook? What are they forecasting for the next quarter?
Their initial look at the fourth quarter, fiscal 2025,
Hmm?
suggests revenue somewhere between $65 and $67 million, gross margin around 44%,
Mm-hmm.
and significantly, they're expecting a much smaller GAAP net loss, around $3.5 million. So it suggests they anticipate continuing this path towards better financial performance.
Definitely a trend in the right direction, if it holds. Let's switch gears to the stock. It sounds like it's been on a real roller coaster this past year.
Oh, absolutely. As of May 2025, it's been trading sort of between $10.91 and $11.35. But if you look back over the year, it went from a high of $90.64 down to a low of $2.22.
Goodness, that's dramatic.
That kind of volatility, it really reflects a lot of investor uncertainty about the company's future,
A drop like that would make anyone pause. And yet, despite that, analysts seem, well, maybe cautiously optimistic.
The average rating right now is a hold, but the consensus 12-month price target is actually around $19.
Interesting.
Which suggests analysts on balance see some potential upside from current levels, but you have to weigh that against the big red flags we talked about, the debt, the losses.
Right.
What they're likely focusing on are those improvements in adjusted EBITDA and free cash flow.
So a real tension there between the risks and potential green shoots. And I gather their next earnings report, June 16th, is seen as pretty crucial.
That's right. That report will be key. It should give more solid clues about whether the turnaround efforts are really taking hold. Could definitely move the stock one way or the other.
Now, how does Quantum stack up against the competition? Who are they up against in this data space?
Well, in the bigger picture of data storage, they're competing against giants like Western Digital and Seagate Technology.
Okay, the big names.
Yeah, those guys have much broader product lines, bigger market share. But Quantum's differentiator is really that focus on unstructured data for AI. That's their niche.
So playing in a specific growing area.
Exactly. It allows them to target a fast-expanding segment.
And strategically, what moves have they been making lately? I saw something about a new subscription service.
Yes, they launched something called Quantum Joe Refresh for their DXi T-Series backup systems. It's basically a subscription model, more flexible payments, includes hardware upgrades.
Trying to make it easier for customers.
Could be appealing for businesses wanting to manage tech costs and stay current.
Makes sense. And they got some recognition for their partner program, too.
They did. named a 2025 CRN 5-star partner program. And alongside that, they rolled out some new incentives for partners and really pushed their AI-driven solutions. It reinforces that AI focus in trying to build those channel relationships.
Okay, so Quantum's navigating a complex path. Financial hurdles, yes, but also strategic moves targeting that AI data boom. Now, let's pivot to that big international story with tech implications. President Trump's Middle East visit and this quantum computing deal. What happened there?
This is quite significant. A major development from that trip was the announcement of a $1 billion partnership in quantum computing.
$1 billion. Okay.
It involves Quantinuum, that's a subsidiary of Honeywell International and Qatar's Al Raban Capital. The deal was announced during the president's visit on May 14th.
Wow. Okay, $1 billion is serious investment. What's the goal of this joint venture?
They're going to focus on developing quantum computing applications specifically for needs in that region. Things like new materials, discovery, precision tech, genomics, financial services.
So practical applications, not just pure research.
That's the idea. The bigger picture is to position Qatar as a regional hub for these advanced technologies, especially quantum.
Interesting. And this quantum deal, it was part of an even bigger wave of agreements, wasn't it?
That's right. This was just one piece of investment agreements reportedly exceeding $2 trillion in total.
$2 trillion.
Across defense, aviation, AI deals struck with Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE during that trip.
That's a staggering amount of potential investment. Let's bring it back to the stock market. How did this quantum deal affect specific companies? Like Honeywell, for instance.
Well, Honeywell, being Quantinuum's parent, obviously stands to benefit from this $1 billion venture. They had already signaled big plans for Quantinuum, technical milestones, maybe even an IPO down the line. But interestingly, Honeywell's stock actually dipped slightly, about 0.6% after the news, and it's been down a bit year-to-date overall.
That's counterintuitive.
It could suggest, perhaps, that the market had already priced in Quantinuum's potential, or maybe just broader market factors were at play that day.
Fascinating. What about other quantum players? Rigetti Computing seemed to have a very different reaction.
It did, yes. Rigetti shares jumped about 18% after the announcement.
18%.
Even though they weren't directly involved, it seems investors took this huge investment as a positive sign for the entire quantum computing sector. Sort of a rising tide lifts all boats sentiment.
Ah, okay. So a vote of confidence in the whole industry. And I think an analyst upgraded Rigetti around that time too.
Indeed. Richard Shannon from Craig-Hallum raised his price target on Rigetti, kept a buy rating. That likely added fuel to the fire, even though Rigetti's own recent sales figures were actually down year over year.
It just shows how sentiment and these bigger picture events can really drive things. And it wasn't just quantum stocks moving during that Middle East trip, right? Other tech names saw action.
That's correct. Big U.S. tech companies like NVIDIA, Alphabet, Amazon, they saw gains. And super microcomputers had a noticeable surge after they announced a collaboration with Saudi Arabia's Datavolt.
So a generally positive vibe for tech linked to potential Middle East investment.
It appeared that way, yes. A positive market reaction overall to potential partnerships and capital flowing into the tech space from the region.
But here's the twist I read about. Despite all this positive news and investment, AI and quantum stocks are apparently some of the most shorted on Wall Street. How does that square?
It is a bit of a paradox, isn't it? You've got huge investments pouring in, signaling massive future potential, but at the same time, high short interest.
Right.
It really underscores the speculative nature of these fields right now.
Right.
There's enormous excitement about what AI and quantum could do, but also significant uncertainty and risk around current valuations and how long it will actually take for these technologies to become widely profitable.
So high hopes balanced by heavy skepticism. Okay, let's try and pull this all together. What are the key takeaways for you regarding quantum and this big quantum investment news?
Well, for quantum, it really looks like a high-risk, maybe high-reward situation.
Yeah.
They've got clear financial hurdles, no doubt, but they are showing some signs of operational improvement, and they're strategically placed in that critical AI data management niche. Then you have the Quantinuum Qatar deal. That $1 billion investment is a powerful signal of growing global interest and belief in the long-term potential of quantum computing. And those contrasting market reactions, Honeywell's little dip versus Rigetti's big jump, they just highlight how complex and, frankly, unpredictable investor sentiment can be around these emerging technologies and the companies within them.
So what does this all mean for you listening in? We've seen a company, Quantum, trying to navigate some choppy financial waters while playing in a potentially explosive growth sector. And we've seen how a huge international investment in a future tech can send ripples through the market, affecting companies both directly and indirectly.
And this whole quantum computing situation, attracting billions in investment while also being heavily shorted, it really throws into sharp relief that tension, doesn't it, between the excitement for what's next and the colder realities of today's financials and market doubts. It makes you think,
Hmm.
how do you weigh that future potential against current risk and skepticism when you make investment choices?
It's definitely something to consider. We strongly encourage you to do your own follow-up research. Maybe look into the latest analyst takes on quantum, explore what Honeywell's saying about Quantinuum's roadmap, or even just get a better handle on the broader quantum industry trends.
Good advice.
Thank you for joining us for this analysis today. If you found it useful, please do subscribe, give us a like, and perhaps leave a comment with your thoughts. We'll be back soon with more insights from the world of investing.